Hi, my name is Onkar Singh Dhindsa, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. That's where I grew up. And I'm a personal fitness trainer. I'm a writer and I'm an actor. And I'm with Dipika and Anuz on the podcast at the end of the day.
Onkar, thank you so much for your time.
Of course. I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
And talk to you guys.
So we have to give a quick disclosure. Onkar and we met at one of the Moth storytelling workshops that happened in the Moth's office in New York City a couple of months back.
Back in June,
that's how we connected and learned about each other.
Just wondering, what does a fitness trainer do?
What does a fitness trainer do?
I don't understand it. It sounds so fancy for me.
Sounds fancy.
It sounds cool and trendy.
But what do you guys do?
What do you do? So we work people out, definitely. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think from my experiences, and my own personal experience, and then also just with people I work with, like anytime you're like doing something of that big of a change, right? These are the people that I work with, they're not your average gym goer that goes to the gym and has a lot of, these are people that don't work out, getting to help them with their growth, both physically and mentally too, because anytime you're looking to make that kind of change, like it's a lot on the inside as well. It takes a lot of courage. You have to make room for it. It's not just like, oh, okay, it's 6 o'clock, I got to go to my session. No, it takes a lot. Like now you have to sleep different. Now you have to eat different. Like you have to take care of yourself more. And so I think it involves all of that. So I guess it is a little fancy, but I see myself more as a coach. Like I'm motivating them, I'm training them, I'm teaching them how to move, how to be courageous, how to connect with themselves. That's a really big one, connecting with yourself. A lot of us, I think, like especially in the Southeast Asian community, I think like we have a culture of like not expressing our emotions so much. And I think, me too, I have the same problem. And I think what's helped me is to connect with my body, like if I can connect with my body, if I can connect with like my physical pain, then that can help me connect with my emotional pain too.
Dipika was showing me your personal website where I stumbled upon one of your blogs where you revealed how you became a fitness trainer.
Yeah.
So we want to hear that story for our audience.
Absolutely, yeah. So like I said, it's all a relationship with it. So like I said, I've always grown up like being very active, but I think it started for me when I was 26. So I grew up in LA. I went to New Orleans when I was 23 to begin. So my professional career, I guess, started out as a teacher. So I used to be a teacher. So I taught high school math. So I taught in New Orleans for 2 years. I think that was my first time as an adult, going away from home. And a lot of things I think came up for me where I guess I saw my shortcomings, things I didn't like about myself. Like I was drinking a lot. I was ending up with women that weren't good for me, and it was basically abusive. I wasn't seeing my own worth, And so I was also very lonely out, there without my family. And so I was not in a good place. And so I came back to LA and I was actually just looking for a cheap gym to work out at, because they're so expensive.
Right.
And so my friend told me about this gym right near me and where I lived. And it was actually a private gym that 2 bodybuilders opened up. So it's like, you go in there and everybody's like really big and it's like intimidating kind of, and I was super skinny at the time. So, like they were kind of like laughing at me too. Like, oh, look at this new guy, he doesn't really know too much and whatever. And but I slowly I humbled myself and I just kind of I was like, you know what, I'm tired of making excuses. I'm tired of saying like, oh, oh, black people, like black guys, they have really good genes, like that's why they have the abs. And oh, I'm Punjabi, we don't have the genes, so it's not gonna happen for me. And I was like, I'm tired of that like stereotyping myself, and I want to get past this. So I was like, you know what, whatever, I'm gonna just keep asking questions. And it was more of a personal hurdle for me that I just got over. And I like getting over that pride, getting over your pride and just going and like asking. And so that's where I really got the confidence and just changed like my body. I think that's where it came from. So just transforming my body, going from like a skinny kid to getting really big and then like leaning out. That was like amazing. I didn't think I could do that. And I didn't think it was so empowering that from there, when you get to a place like that, you feel so good about yourself I mean, I don't know about other people, but for me, like I get to a place where like I can't help but want to help other people do the same thing. You know, everybody looks at you like, oh wow, Onkar, like how did you do that? And so I think that's how it started. I was like, you know, I want to help people do this. So at the time I was still a teacher, and so I was kind of like seesawing, right? You know, like I hadn't made the full dive, but I was on Instagram. I started posting pictures of like my fitness journey, and I began modeling. And but then I was like, okay, I want to help people with fitness as well. So I began personal training a little bit in LA while I was still a teacher. So I would like write people plans, you know, just kind of like on documents and send it to them like, oh, do this. But I knew that wasn't enough because I'm like, look, you know, you can find workouts on the internet, you know?
True.
That's not what a trainer is for.
Right.
You can find that. But that individualized experience of like, what does this person need, you know? Like, you know, we all need different things. And, you know, like I said, I've been running and I've been active since I was a kid. I don't need the same knowledge and the same preparation that somebody else might. And so I wanted to really like help people with that. And so when I made the dive to move to New York, I was like, okay, I want to go there and I want to act and I want to model. I don't know how I'm going to pay for things as I'm there, but I knew that fitness was how I was going to do it. So.
But what made you come to New York from LA?
So growing up, grew up in LA, and I grew up in I'm Punjabi Sikh, so I grew up in a very orthodox family. My parents are what you call in Punjabi Amritari, which means they're fully, I guess the English word is baptized into the religion. Like they're fully committed, right? They wear the turban, they don't cut their hair, or like my dad, you know, but women, you know, don't cut their hair, they pray, they're, you know, so I grew up in that household, and that was very interesting for me because it was literally a dichotomy of, you know, two worlds where I have my Punjabi Sikh identity at home. Whether I embraced it or not, that was what it was, you know? So I think that was interesting. Something I'm still reflecting on, like, you know, like that's what I was born into, but how much of it is that still a part of me? I don't know. Still figuring that out. But I think that was one part. And then on the other side, you know, being, I mean, I was born here, you know? So I'm a first generation kid, you know, I have a turban on my head, and I'm going to preschool, and I'm going to kindergarten, I'm going to first grade, you know, like I'm a baby, and I'm the only one with a patka, the mini turban. And, you know, it's like kids are asking questions. And so, you know, you get a lot of anxiousness and a lot of fear, just like not knowing how to, you know, portray yourself. You know, like what are you eating? Like, you know, you eat different foods, and you look very different. And I didn't realize it at the time, obviously, you know, you're too young to realize these things, but it's a lot of anxiety for a kid, you know, to have to explain these things and to always be nervous about what other kids might say. It's already such a very like socially pressuring time. So I feel like as I got older, it didn't get easier because I think the way Sikhs and Muslims were viewed in this country drastically changed when I was in middle school. When I was in 6th grade is when 9/11 happened. So I mean, today's the 14th, so we just actually celebrated the 18th year anniversary. And it's crazy, but like 18 years later, I still grieve like what I should have had, you know, the childhood I should have had, if that didn't, you know, really scar me so much. But I mean, you know, September 11th happened, and I think that's where things really took a turn for me, because the next day, I mean, the same day actually, they started showing pictures of bin Laden. You know, like this is the guy that did it. And I mean, he wears a round turban, and a lot of Sikhs wear round turbans too.
True.
And, you know, and so that was it, you know, like literally the next day I had this girl, I was actually just, you know, a blog post about it, like, you know, she called me bin Laden literally the next day. And I'm 11, you know, and I didn't know, you know, I just kind of laughed it off. But I mean, that's how it was, you know, just being called bin Laden and, you know, being called a terrorist and by kids at school, but also adults too. You know, I remember like I was on a field trip and these two guys in the quad, we were just walking in a line. I'm 11, and these two grown men like, hey, E.T., go home, like go back to your country. And it was like very traumatizing to just, you know, be in this country, to feel like you're American, but to not connect and to just be alienated that way. So, you know, I don't think I can. I think I'm still trying to feel that pain, you know. But yeah, so I think it just kind of continued throughout middle school for me and high school, and the toughest part was also the fact that I was very different at school. I was the only one with a turban. Me and my sister were the only Indians even.
Right.
So at my school. So yeah, in Southern California, there aren't that many Sikhs and definitely not Indians. So I went to school predominantly with Hispanics, and so that was one side of it. And then at home, it's like my parents are religious, and to them, they're immigrants. Like we came to this country to give you a better life, but we want to preserve our culture too. So it wasn't like, oh well, so you still have that culture of emotional suppression. And you still have, what other people think. That's also really important in our culture,
it's
right?
a very important part.
So if you put those two things on top of all the bullying I was getting at school, didn't make it any easier because I'm dealing with this stuff at school. I'm too embarrassed to tell even my family about it. So I'm just like bottling it in, I'm just holding it in. And that was like, I think the biggest thing that messed me up, just holding it in and like, oh no, I can deal with this myself. And then going home and having like my parents really like, oh no, this is important, like our identity. But it's like I'm struggling with my identity because my identity is why I'm getting made fun of, So I think like, as I got older, I just like realized how much bitterness and resentment I had about my religion, about my parents, like, having to do something that then made me get so much ridicule and bullying for, So it was like a tough cycle. And I think it like really, those issues like were very traumatizing, and then into my adulthood they lead to different things. I think people don't really always make the connection, like why do I drink so much, why do I party so much, why do I this and that. It comes back to traumatizing things that happen in your childhood. Like for me, I was really bothered by it. I would always go after these like pretty girls, but they had no respect for me, like they only wanted to talk to me like when it was convenient for them. Like I was a nice guy, and so like a lot of things came up. I was always angry. I didn't know how to connect. Like I didn't know how to be vulnerable. Like so these things start to come up in my adulthood. And like I'm in college now, and I'm wondering like, why am I like this? And so I know I have this pain, but I don't know how to deal with it because I wasn't taught how to deal with my emotions either. So I think all of these things together is why I studied psychology. And then even in college, I was always helping kids. I love kids in general, but because of I think my experiences, like like I realized how we all have problems. Yes, as adults, we have an adult brain though. So we can like like handle them. But as a kid, you don't know any better, and it's hard for you to process that. And so that's why I think I got into the world of like wanting to teach and wanting to help kids. And so that's where it started, and I wanted to go into psychology to get a PhD. And so that's what actually brought me to New York, where I was here for a PhD school interview. This was in 2017 in February. So it was the school interview, and at the same time it was Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. So that's how I kind of started. I came for the interview. I ended up walking in a couple shows.
Wow.
And then I just like fell in love. I was like, I want to come here and I want to move and I want to do this. So that's kind of how it started, yeah.
Right. And you also wrote a book, Growing Pains. When did you write this book, and what is this book all about? I know a little bit about this book, so let's tell our audience.
Yeah, Growing Pains. So this book basically kind of starts with what I was talking about with my journey of moving back from. It starts with, so I'm 29 now, about to be 30 soon, but this starts with basically me at 26. So when I first moved back to LA, it starts kind of there. I felt very broken, in a bad place, and I had just gotten out of a relationship, and again a relationship where I just gave and gave and gave, and I was like, I'm tired of this. I can't keep doing, keep it into these same patterns. And so it starts with that. It starts with heartbreak, and it's kind of my journey into really transforming myself.
Right.
I use a lot of fitness, obviously, because I changed my body, but it's all work on the inside. So it's broken into passages. Growing Pains is a story about me kind of unpacking all the things that were holding me back. And so it goes back into my childhood, goes back into like dating experiences, relationship with my parents, sister, and it's broken into passages, so little lessons that you can learn throughout the book. And
I have been reading the book, and I would highly recommend reading this book, because trust me, you will definitely relate to all the contents that is written in this book, and you will relate on a personal level, and you will see yourself in so many of these passages, so many of these words. It's really encouraging and really inspiring, especially in today's world when there is so much of competition going around, and we also have the fear of, okay, people are looking at me, they are measuring my progress and all. So it is really helpful.
And Onkar, I was talking to you about the blog post which I read. I haven't read the book though.
Okay.
You were quite revealing in your blog post, like you poured your heart out. You didn't hide anything.
I know, and
Weren't you scared when you were dipping those words out?
Yeah. Are you referring to the
blog post
about depression?
Right.
Yes. So that was actually, and that's another thing. Let me. So I went through my worst depression. I'll say it now too. Yeah, this past fall. And I think it's important to mention because, I had a lot of pain when I was 26, and I transformed my body. But guys, like I'm a personal trainer. Going to the gym is not going to heal your inner pain. Let me say this now. Like it was nice to look great, but it still caught up to me. Like that pain still caught up to me. I used the momentum to start modeling and acting, and I moved to New York, and all this good stuff happened. This book happened, in that time too. But I still got depressed because I didn't deal with that stuff, from my childhood, and so that's where the depression came from. And I think like when you get to that point, you're just like, okay, this is what's important. I think you just get perspective, and I think I've always just been growing up, like, because I was never able to fully be myself at school, I was always different. And then in my community, I was never Sikh enough, I didn't, are you praying? Like I'd get my chin observed. Are you trimming your beard? Like, so I could never, I was always being judged and always had to hide something about myself. So I was just tired of it, like I knew that for me, like if I was going to grow, like I have to just put it out there. And it is hard. It's still hard, like the last post I had on Instagram, I was telling you about, it's a 9/11 post, because 18 years later, like I'm still very moved and emotional. I cried a lot on Wednesday, just grieving, like, how painful that experience was for me. And I was crying while I was writing the post, even when I put it out there, I was like, it feels like, very revealing, knowing that someone exposing, you feel exposed, like all these people are looking at this, and
they will judge you,
and they will judge me, and then I just find solace in knowing that I'm helping people, and that's, so as long as you know why you're doing it, then it's all in good intentions. Then you have to just remind yourself, like, okay, like this is helping me heal, and it's going to help other people heal too. If I can be brave, I can teach somebody else to be brave too.
And Onkar, let's come to your career again. So how did you jumpstart your career as a fitness trainer in New York City?
In a professional level.
Yeah.
I know. That's so crazy, because that was very hard. I mean, there was a time where my rent was like, like $1,700, and I wasn't making that, you know what I mean? So I'm like just using my savings, and I'm like, oh my God, like I need clients, I need money, and especially in New York City, I knew I wanted to be here. I knew I needed to be here. I knew I wasn't going to live in Jersey, because that would give me such a headache to like come every day. And so it was tough, and I had to get creative. So when I first moved here, I actually was with a gym, with Equinox. So I was training at Equinox. And I learned a lot of good things there, but I had to make a tough decision and leave, because it took over my life. It took over my whole day, and I was just living there. I'd like come in at like 5 a.m. I'd leave in the nighttime. I was like, okay, I didn't come here to live at Equinox. So I made the decision, like after a couple months of being here, to just go off on my own, and that was very difficult. I mean, we're talking about making flyers. Sneaking into buildings with gyms, past the doormat, and I would just go to the top, just like by each unit, just like flyering, So just starting out like that. That's when I made the website too. So I made the website, and a lot of just promotion, and it takes patience too. I think, now I'm at a great place, but it's taken time, and I think what's also helped is just like perseverance, putting yourself out there. And then also like some of the clients that I've had since the get-go, they're like, they're transformed now, because I've had clients now for over a year now. So, now they're recommending people, and so it's working out great now, but it definitely took a while to get to this point. So
How long is a while?
A while, I would say a year and a half. Yeah. Over a year and a half of just struggling to get to that place. And so that included doing things I didn't want to do, but
Such as?
Being a bartender. I was a bartender.
Right.
I worked with model staffing agencies, just like, looking pretty, dressing in black and just serving food,
Right.
being on your feet for 8 hours, which I don't like doing. And so yeah, like just things like that, which were nice experiences, I think I always wanted to bartend. It sounds sexy, like bartending, get tips and, make a lot of money, but you don't really, it wasn't that lucrative, I don't think, but it was still a cool experience for me. And I'm glad I did it, but it was all kind of part of the journey.
Right.
If anybody would like to reach out to you for career advice or for some, guidance in their career upheavals, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say to just you can go through the website, you can go through Instagram. If you just, look up my name, or my tag is OS Dhindsa. You can just look that up and then just message me. And about career, but also just personal. If anything I said like really related or stuck with you, please feel free to reach out. Read through my content, and if you really want to talk to me as well, and I can help, I'd love to help. I think like I said, when you go through certain experiences, and if you can help someone like alleviate and make it a little easier for them, by all means, I definitely do that.
Okay, thank you so much, Onkar, for this wonderful episode.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah.
Thank you, Onkar.
Thank you guys. All right.
And before we sign up, we would like to thank the English Speaking Union, ARNIC, for providing us this wonderful space to record the conversation with Onkar. And if you are a new immigrant in the USA, please get in touch with ESU ARNIC because they provide free English classes and professional development classes. So definitely reach out to the ESU ARNIC.
And yeah, if you want to watch and listen to our previous episodes, do log into podcast@theendoftheday.com and do subscribe us on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you find our podcast.
Yes, so it's time to say bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey guys, a quick note. If you have a personal story that you think might be helpful to the newly arriving immigrants in the US, please contact us. We would love to feature you in our podcast. Go to our website, podcast@theendoftheday.com, and write to us by going to the feedback section.
And by the way, if you love this podcast, you can support us with a small donation. Your help will enable us to continue producing more episodes. The link to support our podcast is in the description below.